Ray's on TV is the first segment of the second season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This season is off to a really strong start. There will be spoilers, as always, as I talk about this episode, so spoilers from now. And there's also one quote in this, in fact, maybe a couple of quotes that I want to share that I really loved. It starts off with Debra and Ray discussing a picture that Ali drew, and they are concerned, Debra's concerned mostly, that Grandma and Grandpa, Marie and Frank, of course, are depicted as being scary monsters. And they ask Ali about this, and Ali says that they're just Halloween characters, and she says, and I quote, "Grandma and Grandpa aren't monsters," and she gives this kind of cheeky look, and it's adorable, and I think that's really the first time where Ali gave us some comedy. Obviously the character is getting older, the actor is getting older, and we're starting to be able to get a little bit more from the character. Ray is then at the cafeteria. He finds out that he's been invited to do an interview on a TV show, a sports show, and initially he doesn't want to do it. He decides it's not for him. He's not a TV person. He's a writer. But with some encouragement, he decides to do it, and then we get to see him on TV. And I love the scene. I love the scene. The first scene where he's on TV. It's absolutely brilliant, and he's not doing a great job, to put it simply. He doesn't have a way with words, and then he seems to start to get into his stride, but as he seems to become more confident with what he's saying, he starts to adopt some strange behaviours and mannerisms, and the expressions of the people around him, absolutely fantastic. It's a very straightforward scene. All we see is Ray and the three others there around the table. We don't have this big elaborate studio setting or anything, but it works really well. It's kind of up close and intimate, and I really like that. He goes home to a lot of praise, but then in the evening, and first of all, the conversation is about another picture that Ali drew, and again, we have very monster-fied grandparents, and this quote, I absolutely loved it because it's so simple but so true. And Debra points out, this one's bald and this one's carrying a covered dish. The covered dish part really entertained me. I just thought that's such an accurate, very simplified but accurate description of Frank and Marie. The conversation then moves on to Ray's concerns about his performance on TV, and Debra, I think, took a very sensitive approach, and she even kind of asked him a few times, are you sure you want me to tell you these things? You're asking me, remember that. And she gives him some advice about practicing some words. And we have another quote, a sentence that nobody could have predicted ever would have been said in the history of the world. And that's, I asked you to put the asterisk with the cinnamon. Because Ray has trouble saying ask, asterisk, and cinnamon. He pronounces them axe and asterix. Asterix, I can kind of understand because I feel like somebody might think that that's how it's pronounced if you've never seen it written down. Axe, I can't get on board with. Cinnamon, he pronounces as cinnamon, which I just thought was absolutely adorable. But that sentence, I asked you to put the asterisk with the cinnamon, doesn't make any sense, and I absolutely love it. And then Ray confronts his parents, and we have a pretty brilliant exchange. Initially with Ray, Frank and Marie, and then Robert comes into it. Frank starts to give Raymond some advice about his intonations, and he does this example asking for a pickle. Marie doesn't get the hint. He asks her for a pickle, and she scurries off to the fridge, and it's absolutely adorable. And then Robert comes downstairs, and there's a pretty brilliant moment. I mean, it's horrible for Robert, but it's very funny, where Marie is telling Raymond that she was honest when she said his birth was the best day of their lives. And then immediately after, she tells Robert to put something back in the fridge. He wasn't allowed to eat it just now. Just the switch, the way she's talking to her two sons was so powerful and so effective. And Robert's facial expression, of course, was absolutely brilliant as well. And then Ray gets another chance to go back on TV. He is surprised that they're inviting him back. Marie is surprised they're inviting him back. But nevertheless, he goes, and we get to see him on TV again. And it's not good. And I believe the real reason it wasn't good is because he was thinking about it. It's one of those things where if you think something's going to happen or you worry about messing up, you're more likely to do that. I don't know what the statistics are for that, but I think it's fair to say that most of us have experienced that at some point, that if we get so caught up on doing the wrong thing because we're thinking about it, we're more likely to do it. And then he comes home and everybody is brutally honest. Marie even said it was worse than last time, which is a pretty horrible thing to say. And then Frank said another quote that I loved. I could have eaten a box of alphabets and crapped a better interview, which I thought was very amusing. So Ray has to learn that actually sometimes people are nice because it's the nice thing to do, and it's important to be honest, but you can be too honest. And while we appreciate the truth, sometimes there are ways to deliver that information, and being brutally honest is not the way forward. We then have a scene at the end with Ray and Debra. It wasn't a particularly interesting way to end things. I feel like the episode kind of fell flat in the last minute or so. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really great episode, very funny, and with some brilliant quotes, as I've shared. And we also have a really great lesson, or two lessons. One, you can't overthink things or think you're going to mess up because it's more likely to happen. But also, if you're going to ask for somebody to be honest, you need to be prepared to hear what they have to say, because it's not always the best. So a great start, really strong start to season 2. Really looking forward to rewatching the rest of it.